Okay, we'll have quick recap what we have done yesterday. So yesterday I have introduced the error handling concept. So with the help of this try-catch shape. Okay. So here try-catch shape is going to have try branch and catch branch. Okay, try-catch shape is going to have try branch and catch branch. Now here try-catch shape is capable enough to handle document errors and process level errors. Document errors in the sense whenever we are having any type of document level issues, those we should treat as document level errors. And at the same time, if I'm going to have any type of issue in the configuration settings, అంటే మన కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ చేసేటప్పుడు ఎక్కడైనా సరే issues ఉన్నాయంటే those settings we should treat as process level errors. So here as a whole this try-catch shape is capable enough to handle document level errors and as well as process level errors. So because of that reason here I have chosen all errors here. Okay. Once after choosing all errors, now here we are having try branch and catch branch. This try branch is capable enough to handle the errors whatever we are going to see in the entire process flow. మనకు ఉన్నటువంటి ఇక్కడ ఎంటైర్ ప్రాసెస్ ఫ్లోలో ఎక్కడైనా సరే ఎర్రర్స్ ఉన్నాయి అంటే ఆ రెస్పెక్టివ్ ఎర్రర్స్ ని ఈ ట్రై బ్రాంచ్ అనేది డిటెక్ట్ చేస్తుంది. ద సేమ్ రెస్పెక్టివ్ ఎర్రర్స్ విల్ బి మూవ్డ్ ఇంటూ ద క్యాచ్ బ్రాంచ్. ఇక్కడ టోటల్ ప్రాసెస్ ఫ్లో అనేది ఈ ట్రై బ్రాంచ్ కంట్రోల్ లోకి వచ్చింది. ఓకే. నౌ previously we have configured start shape of connector type and here I have chosen disk connector. ఇంతకుముందు మనం కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ చేసేటప్పుడు ఏం చూసాము, స్టార్ట్ షేప్ తీసుకొని కనెక్టర్ టైప్ disk connector we have taken here. Okay. Now I have chosen start shape of no data. Why? If suppose if any mistake is going to happen in the start shape లో ఏదైనా మిస్టేక్ వచ్చిందను, start shape లో ఏదైనా మిస్టేక్ వచ్చింది, so those mistakes will not be handled by the try-catch shape. Okay, those mistakes will not be handled by the try-catch shape. So now to overcome that situation, here I have introduced start shape of no data. ఇక్కడ నేను start shape of no data చూసేసాను కాబట్టి then it is connecting to the try-catch shape. Okay. Now there is nothing to configure here. Now as a whole my requirement is that first I need to read the data and I need to fetch the data into the Boomi. In order to read the data and in order to fetch the data into the Boomi, here I have introduced the disk connector. With the help of this disk connector, I am able to read and I am able to fetch the data. Then I have connected this one to the data process. Now as a whole, the total process is coming under the control of this decision shape. And in yesterday's session, initially the process was like this. Okay, initially the process was like this. Okay, right away the exception shape is getting connected to the true branch here. Now in this situation, okay, in this configuration at this point of time, the decision shape is going to send the document into the true branch. Okay, ikkada decision shape anedi true branch like documents and set chas. Once after sending the documents into the true branch, the execution is going to fail here. Ikkada execution anedi fail avutundi. So whenever true branch execution fails, automatically the false branch execution is not going to happen. Ante decision shape rule prakaram first true branch అనేది execute అవుతుంది, then false branch is going to get executed. If because of some reason if the true branch execution fails, automatically the false branch execution is not going to happen. Now in order to overcome that situation, మన డాక్యుమెంట్ లెవెల్ ఎర్రర్ ఇష్యూ ఏంటి, ఏదైనా పర్టికులర్ ఇష్యూ వల్ల ఏదైనా ఒక డాక్యుమెంట్ ఇంపాక్ట్ అయిందంటే రిమైనింగ్ డాక్యుమెంట్స్ అనేవి ఇంపాక్ట్ అవ్వదు. So in order to overcome that situation, here I have introduced one more try-catch shape. Okay, here I have introduced one more try-catch shape. Okay. Now I have introduced one more try-catch shape here. Now here try-catch shape is having try branch and catch branch. Now whatever the document I am getting into the try-catch shape, ఇక్కడ నాకు try-catch shape లెక్క వచ్చేటటువంటి డాక్యుమెంట్ ఏదైతే ఉంటుందో ఇక్కడ ట్రూ బ్రాంచ్ అనేది ఎగ్జిక్యూషన్ అవుతుంది. ఓకే, ఇక్కడ ట్రూ బ్రాంచ్ అనేది ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవుతుంది. వన్స్ ఇక్కడ ట్రూ బ్రాంచ్ ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవడంతో కంట్రోల్ అనేది ఆటోమేటిక్ గా ఫాల్స్ బ్రాంచ్ లెక్క వెళ్తుంది. ఓకే, so once the true branch executed successfully here, then automatically the control goes to the false branch. From here onwards, the data will go forward. ఇక్కడ నుంచి data అనేది forward అవుతుంది. So once the data goes ahead, now the try branch is going to detect the error and the exception shape. Okay, in this situation, the try branch is going to detect the error and the exception shape. The respective data is moving into the catch branch. Now after that, in order to show you the document flow, here I have introduced a మ్యాప్ షేప్ హియర్. ఓకే, ఇక్కడ నేను మ్యాప్ షేప్ యూజ్ చేశాను. ఎందుకు యూజ్ చేశాను అంటే ఇన్ ఆర్డర్ టు మేక్ యూ అండర్స్టాండబుల్ బెటర్ ద డాక్యుమెంట్ ఫ్లో. సో ఇక్కడ ఏమవుతుందంటే ఈ ట్రై-క్యాచ్ షేప్ లోకి వచ్చేటువంటి డేటా ఏదైతే ఉందో ఆ డేటా అనేది ఈ ట్రై బ్రాంచ్ లోకి మూవ్. ఇక్కడ ఈ ట్రై బ్రాంచ్ కి మ్యాప్ షేప్ కనెక్ట్ చేశాను. సో విత్ ద హెల్ప్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ మ్యాప్ షేప్ దెన్ ఇట్ ఈస్ గోయింగ్ టు గెట్ కన్వర్టెడ్ ఇంటూ ద XML ఫైల్ అండ్ ద రెస్పెక్టివ్ XML data is moving into the exception shape. Now here this exception shape is going to throw an error. Okay, once it is going to throw an error, the respective catch branch is going to get the respective error details information. I am going to save this one. Now I am going to test the process. Now let's see the behavior once after execution. Now the execution completed successfully. Okay, now the execution completed successfully. Now, if I click on this exception share, okay, if I click on this exception share, if I click on the share source data, if I open this document viewer, here I'll be able to get the data in the form of XML form. Okay, here I'll be able to get the data in the form of XML file form. Okay, why? Just before the exception shape, I have used the map shape. So because of that reason, here I'll be able to see the data in the form of XML file. Now, if I click on this catch branch, now let's see what I'm going to receive here. I have clicked on this catch branch. Now, if I open this document viewer, here I'll be able to see the data in the form of CSV plot. Okay, why I am able to see the data in the form of CSV plot file? So in the try branch, I'm getting XML data, but in the catch branch, I'm getting the CSV plot. Why? Why? Because whenever any mistake is going to happen in the try branch, ఎప్పుడైనా సరే మనకు try branch లో ఏదైనా mistake వచ్చింది అంటే the respective catch branch is going to fetch whatever the input data I'm getting into the try catch shape, the same input file information will be moved into the catch branch. అంటే ఎప్పుడైనా సరే ట్రై క్యాచ్ షేప్ లో ఏదైనా మిస్టేక్ వచ్చిందంటే ఆ రెస్పెక్టివ్ క్యాచ్ బ్రాంచ్ లేకి ఏ డేటా వస్తుంది, వాట్ ఎవర్ ద ఇన్పుట్ ఐఎమ్ గెటింగ్ ఇన్ టు ద ట్రై క్యాచ్ షేప్, the same input file information will be moved into the cache branch. Okay, till here we have covered yesterday. Now today I am going to enhance this process further. Now here, with the help of this start shape of disconnector, I am going to read the data and I am going to fetch the data from the local directory. Okay, fine. Now let us assume whenever we are working in real time, sometimes we may depend on some other teams. Okay, we might be working with the different types of teams. Now let's take example. Your manager is going to tell you, okay guys, you are going to get some sort of data from Salesforce team. Okay, let us assume your manager ఏమంటారంటే మీకు Salesforce team నుంచి certain customers data వస్తుంది. So in that customers data you are going to have some negative customer IDs. Okay, సో మీకు నెగిటివ్ కస్టమర్ ఐడీస్ ఉంటాయి. సో ఇప్పుడు ఆ నెగిటివ్ కస్టమర్ ఐడీస్ తోటి మీరు సేమ్ ఇదే ఎర్రర్ హ్యాండ్లింగ్ కాన్సెప్ట్ అప్లై చేసి, ఓకే, ఇదే ఎర్రర్ హ్యాండ్లింగ్ కాన్సెప్ట్ అప్లై చేసి, నౌ యూ నీడ్ టు ఫిల్టర్ అవుట్ ద పాజిటివ్ కస్టమర్ ఐడీస్ అండ్ ద నెగిటివ్ కస్టమర్ ఐడీస్, అండ్ హీఈస్ గోయింగ్ టు టెల్ యూ టు డెవలప్ ద లాజిక్ బై ఎండ్ ఆఫ్ ద డే. సో మీకు ఇక్కడ డేటా అనేది డైరెక్ట్ గా మీ దగ్గర లేదు. యూ నీడ్ టు డిపెండ్ ఆన్ ద సేల్స్ ఫోర్స్ టీమ్. ఓకే, సో మీకు మేనేజర్ ఇప్పుడు చెప్పాడు అనేసి వెంటనే మీకు సేల్స్ ఫోర్స్ టీమ్ వాళ్ళు డేటా అనేది ఇవ్వరు. ఓకే, దే ఆర్ నాట్ గోయింగ్ టు షేర్ ద డేటా ఆన్ ఇమీడియట్ బేసిస్. ఓకే, అలా ఇవ్వనప్పుడు యూ వోంట్ బి సిట్టింగ్ క్వైట్ టిల్ ఈవినింగ్. మీరు కామ్గా ఈవినింగ్ వరకు కూర్చొని లాస్ట్ మినిట్ లో మీకు డేటా వచ్చినప్పుడు హరిబరిగా ఇదంతా డెవలప్ చేయలేరు. సో ఈ నాట్ ఓవర్కమ్ దట్ సిచ్యువేషన్, హియర్ వీఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు సీ వన్ మోర్ షేప్ కాల్డ్ యాజ్ మెసేజ్ షేప్. మనకి ఇక్కడ ఎప్పుడైనా సరే డేటా రెడీగా అవైలబుల్ గా లేనప్పుడు వీ కెన్ జనరేట్ ద డేటా డైనమికల్లీ విత్ ద హెల్ప్ ఆఫ్ మెసేజ్ షేప్. ఇక్కడ ఈ మెసేజ్ షేప్ ఏం చేస్తుందంటే, మనం ఇక్కడ డిస్క్ కనెక్టర్ తోటి మనం చేసినటువంటి ఫంక్షనాలిటీ అంటే డిస్క్ కనెక్టర్ లో మనం ఏం చేసాము, కనెక్షన్, యాక్షన్, ఆపరేషన్, వీ హావ్ కాన్ఫిగర్డ్ ఆల్ దీస్ థింగ్స్. వీ హావ్ కాన్ఫిగర్డ్ ఆల్ దీస్ థింగ్స్. In the similar way, we can do with the help of this message shape as well. How means, here I am going to use the message shape, and here I am going to copy and I am going to paste this one. I am going to copy this data right away and I am going to paste the data here. Okay, I am going to paste the data here. Okay, so now whatever the functionality I have done with the help of this disconnector, the same functionality I can do with the help of this message shape as well. I am going to click on OK. Now I will save this one. Okay, here message shape is helpful for me to generate the data dynamically. I have saved this process. Now I am going to test the process here. I'll click on. Okay, execution completed successfully. Okay. Now see here, whatever the functionality I have done with the help of this disconnector, the same functionality I am able to do with the help of this message shape. Now see, if I click on this exception shape, if I click on this shape source data, if I open this document viewer, here I'll be able to see the respect to XML file information. Okay, here I'm able to see the respect to XML file information. Now if I click on this top shape, if I open this document viewer, here I'll be able to see the CSV of that file data. Why? As I have told you just now, whenever any mistake is going to happen in the try branch, the respective catch branch is going to fetch whatever the input data I am getting into the try catch shape. The same input file information will be moved into the catch branch. Okay. Now, till now, I have configured the exception shape odd ID is invalid. Okay. Put work in odd ID is invalid and the configuration is. So with the help of this odd ID is invalid, I am not going to get anything. Okay. So I am not going to get any meaningful information. Now I need to fetch exactly which order ID is invalid. Okay, now order ID is invalid. Ikkada manaku order ID is invalid antunnaru gaani ఏ order ID is invalid. So because of that reason, here I am going to pass one variable. Okay, here I am going to pass one variable order ID 1 is invalid. Okay, I am going to pass one variable order ID 1 is invalid. Okay. Now for that respect to 1, here I am going to configure the variable. Okay, now here I am going to configure the variable. I'll click on this plus button. What is that order ID? Order ID is related to the profile. So because of that reason, here I am going to select the profile element. And what is the type of data I am getting into the exception shape? That is in the form of XML file form. Now here I am going to choose that respective profile here. So where is my profile? My profile is in your batch, that is 20th August. And here I am going to choose that respective profile. Once after choosing that profile, here I am going to choose the respective element. Okay, what are the elements? Order ID, product and price. Now here I am going to select the respective element order ID and then I am going to click on. Okay, I'll click on. Now here I have passed variable 1 and that respective variable 1 I am going to fetch the value related to the order ID. Okay. Now I have configured variable 1 here. Now, whenever any mistake is going to happen, that respective data is getting into the catch branch. This catch branch like a data vastundi. Whatever the input I am having in the try catch shape, the same input file information is moving into the catch branch. Now, in order to retrieve some more meaningful information, here I am going to use the message sheet. Here I am going to use the message sheet. Okay. Now, as this message shape is directly connected to the catch branch. Ikkadi message shape anedi direct ga catch branch ki connect ayyindi. Okay, this message shape is directly connected to the catch branch. So ila connect ayyindi kabatti whatever the input I am getting into the try catch shape, the same input file information will be moved into the message shape. Endukani ikkadi catch branch ki direct ga message shape connect ayyindi kabatti whatever the input data I am having in the try catch shape, the same file information will be moved into the message shape. Okay, fine. Now I am going to configure this message shape. Now here I am going to pass the variable 1. Okay, I have passed the variable 1 here. I have passed the variable. Now what is that variable 1? This 1 is related to the message whatever I am going to get from the try catch shape. Ante ee 1 anedi enti? I need to fetch this respect to 1 value which is related to the order ID. That respective information I am getting from the try catch shape. So because of that reason, here I am going to configure the variable. Okay. So what is that one? Here I am going to select the document property. Under document property, here I am going to select metadata. Okay, we are going to select metadata. Under this, I am going to select the try catch message. Okay, under this I am going to select the try catch message. Okay. Now I need to fetch the message from the try catch. So because of that reason, I am going to configure this try catch message. I am going to click on OK. I'll click on OK. I'll click on. I'll save this. Once after saving, now I am going to test this process. I'll click on. Okay, once after testing, here I am going to see some more meaningful information with the respective apartment. Now, if I click on this exception shape, if I click on this shape source data, if I open this document viewer, here I'll be able to see the respective error details information in the XML file. Now I'll click on this message shape. Now I'll click on this message shape. So what the data I'm going to get here? Whatever the input I'm having in the try catch shape, the same message will be moved into the cache here. Now, if I open this document viewer, here I will be able to see the respect to CSV or flat file data. Okay, I'll be able to see the respect to CSV or flat file data. Now, I am based on the configuration settings, whatever I have done in the message shape, the respective output will be moved into the stop shape. I am going to click on the stop shape. I am going to open this document viewer. Once after opening this document viewer, here I'll be able to see the exact order ID 102 is invalid. ఇంతకుముందు మనకేముంది order ID is invalid అని. So when compared with order ID is invalid, here I am having some meaningful information that order ID 102 is invalid. అంటే order ID 102 invalid అనేసి మనకు ఒక మీనింగ్ఫుల్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ అనేది ఇక్కడ ఉంది. ఓకే ఓకే సో విత్ ఆర్డర్ ఐడి 102 అంటే మన దగ్గర ఉన్నటువంటి 1000 టు 1500 ప్రాసెస్ లో ఆర్డర్ ఐడి ఇస్ ఇన్వాలిడ్ అన్నా కానీ ఆర్డర్ ఐడి 102 ఇస్ ఇన్వాలిడ్ అన్నా కానీ ఇట్ ఈస్ డిఫికల్ట్ ఫర్ మీ టు చెక్ ఎగ్జాక్ట్లీ వేర్ ద ఇష్యూ ఈస్ హ్యాప్. So in order to overcome that situation, now I need to retrieve some more meaningful information. Okay, I need to retrieve some more meaningful information. That is nothing but, okay, I need to retrieve some more meaningful information. That is nothing but execution ID. Execution ID ఏంటి? For each and every execution, you are going to get separate execution ID. మనం suppose ఒక particular process in 10 times execution చేసామంటే it is going to generate 10 different execution IDs. Okay, so now here I am going to write some small piece of XML scripting, and here I am going to fetch execution ID, error date time. Error date time అంటే ఏంటి? At what point of time the error has been occurred. Okay, error date time, ప్రాసెస్ నేమ్. ప్రాసెస్ నేమ్ అంటే ఏ పర్టికులర్ ప్రాసెస్ లో ఎర్రర్ వచ్చింది. ఓకే, ప్రాసెస్ నేమ్. పేలోడ్. పేలోడ్ ఇన్ ద సెన్స్ అట్ ద టైమ్ ఆఫ్ ఎగ్జిక్యూషన్, అంటే ఎగ్జిక్యూషన్ జరిగేటప్పుడు మనకి ఏదైతే డేటా జనరేట్ అవుతుందో, అంటే ఎగ్జిక్యూషన్ జరిగేటప్పుడు మనకి ఏదైతే ఎర్రర్ డేటా జనరేట్ అవుతుందో దట్ రెస్పెక్టివ్ డేటా ఐ నీడ్ టు ఫెచ్ హియర్. So because of that reason, here I am going to write some small piece of XML scripting, and here I am going to use error details. I am going to use error details. And then here I am going to write execution ID. I am going to write execution ID. Execution ID in the sense for each and every execution, I am going to generate separate execution ID. Now here I am going to pass the variable 1, and then I am going to close that respective execution ID. As I have told you previously, whenever you are writing any XML code, the respective element has to close with forward slash. Now here I am going to use the execution ID. Then here I am going to use error date time. Okay. Now after that, here I am going to pass the variable 2, and here I am going to mention error date time. Okay, guys, please check the spellings. Sometimes it may go wrong. Okay, error date time. Now here I am interested to fetch the error message also. Error message. Okay, so for this error message, I am going to pass the variable 3, and here I am going to use error message. Okay, now in the fourth option, now here I am interested to fetch the process name. I am interested to fetch the process name. Now for this, I am going to pass the variable 4, and I am going to use forward slash process name. Okay, finally here I am interested to fetch the payload. Okay, finally here I am interested to fetch the payload. So for this respective payload, here I am going to pass the variable 5, and then I am going to close that respective payload. Okay, now finally I am going to close this element. Okay, why? Because execution ID open చేశాను, close చేశాను. So similarly I have opened all the elements and I have closed all the elements. Now I need to close that respective element error details. Now here I am going to close error details. Okay, now here I am going to close error details. In second, not stuck device. One second, guys. This is stuck, I think so. Okay, again I will write the coding here. Now here I am going to use error details. Okay. Now here I am going to use execution ID. Okay. So for this respect to execution ID, here I am going to pass the variable one and I am going to close that respect to execution ID. Okay. Now here I am going to fetch the error date time. Okay, I'm going to fetch error date time. So for this here, I'm going to pass the variable 2 and that respective variable 2, I'm going to close here error date time. Okay. Now here I'm going to fetch the error message. Okay, error message, and for this I'm going to pass the variable 3. Okay. So for this I'm going to pass the variable 3. Second. Variable 3 and I'm going to close that respect to error message. Now I am going to fetch process name. Process name. And here I am going to pass the variable 4 and I'm going to close this one. Process name. Okay, finally I'm interested to fetch the payload. I'm interested to fetch the payload. Okay, so for this here I'm going to configure the file. Okay, now I'm going to close that respect to payload. Okay. Now finally, I am going to close that respect to element execution ID / execution ID. Okay. Now here I need to configure all these variables 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you based on the practice, you will get to know exactly which option is available under which drop down. Sorry?
The execution ID call
Sorry, execution details. Okay, thank you. Okay, error details. Sorry.
Error details.
Yeah. Error details. Now I need to configure everything 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to click on this plus button. So what is the first variable? First variable is related to the execution ID. So in the drop down here, you need to select the execution property. మీకు ఇది ప్రాక్టీస్ చేసే కొంది తెలుస్తుంది అనమాట ఏ డ్రాప్ డౌన్ లో ఏ ఆప్షన్స్ ఉంది. So here I'm going to select the execution property. Under execution property, you are going to select the execution ID. What is the second option? Error date time. Error date time in the sense at the time of execution, whatever the system date we are going to have, that respective date I need to fetch here. Now here I am going to select date time and here I am going to select current date. Now error message. Error message is nothing but the try catch message. Okay. Now I am going to select document property and here I am going to select the metadata. Under metadata I am going to select the try catch message. I'll click on it. Now after that I need to fetch the process name. Okay, I need to fetch the process name. So here under execution property, here I'll be able to see the process name. Okay. So we practice చేసే కొద్దీ drop down లో ఏ ఆప్షన్ ఉంది మీకు తెలుస్తుంది. Under execution property, I will be able to see the process. Now after that payload. Payload is nothing but at the time of execution, whatever the data we are going to generate. ఎగ్జిక్యూషన్ జరిగేటప్పుడు మనకి ఏదైతే డేటా జనరేట్ అవుతుందో దాన్ని మనం పేలోడ్ అంటాం. సో నౌ హియర్ ఐఎమ్ గోయింగ్ టు సెలెక్ట్ ద కరెంట్ డేటా. అంటే సిస్టమ్ ఎగ్జిక్యూషన్ జరిగినప్పుడు ఏదైతే కరెంట్ డేటా వస్తుందో దాన్ని మనం పేలోడ్ అంటాం. ఐ హావ్ సెలెక్టెడ్ దట్ కరెంట్ డేటా. I'll click on OK. I'll save this one. Now I am going to test this process. Once after testing, I'll be able to see the respective error details information in more meaningful way. Okay, now if I click on this top shape, if I click on this shape source data, if I open this document viewer, here I'll be able to see error details, execution ID, error date time, error message, process name, payload and all. Okay, so now this is the execution ID. Suppose if I'm going to execute this process for 10 times, it is going to generate 10 different execution IDs. Error date time, error message, process name, first process. మనం రియల్ టైంలో వర్క్ చేసేటప్పుడు మనకున్నటువంటి 1000 to 1500 ప్రాసెస్ లో మనం ఒకవేళ ప్రాసెస్ నేమ్ అనేది మనం రిట్రీవ్ చేయగలిగాము అంటే దెన్ ఇట్ ఈస్ ఈజీ ఫర్ ద బ్యాక్ అండ్ సపోర్ట్ టీమ్ directly to jump into that particular process and to rectify the issue. Okay, payload. Now in tomorrow's session, we are going to send this error details information to the backend support team by using the mail configuration and by raising the incident by using the ServiceNow ticketing tool.